All right, this is the 5th glove in the Year of Gloves set. So this one is for May. It's got this little shell edging that goes on the pinky side, and the thumb is just kind of cut out. There's no extra thumb addition on here. So if you get the printed pattern, you'll see that it is a little bit different. I just wanted to note that you're going to have the instructions for the right thumb. So skip those 4 rows if you're doing the left glove, and then these are just for the left thumb. So skip those if you're doing the right glove. So don't do all 8 of those rows ever. All right, so just like the other gloves in the set, we are going to use a size G crochet hook and DK weight yarn. I'm using the Swish DK in Nutmeg Heather, but you can use any DK weight yarn you'd like. To start out, I'm going to do a foundation single crochet row of 33. Oh, and like some of the other sizes, this one is slightly different to start for the 7-inch glove versus some other sizes. So this, they all are going to start with a foundation row of 33, but then I'm going to demonstrate the 7-inch glove here, and the start is going to be the same as for the 9-inch. But for the other sizes, you're going to start at a different part of the shell pattern. So I will also film a video showing the start for the other gloves. But let's get going here. No matter which size you're doing, the thumb is going to be the same no matter what. All right, so foundation single crochet row. I'm going to chain 1, insert my hook in that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, chain 1, yarn over, and pull through 2. And again, you can choose whether to count that starting chain as a stitch or not, just depending on what you like the look of. With a single crochet foundation row, I often won't count the starting chain just because it's so small. So I'll insert my hook into that extra stitch that I made at the base of the work, pull up a loop, chain 1, then yarn over and pull through both loops. Now I'll just keep going, insert my hook in that extra chain at the bottom of the stitch, pull up a loop, chain 1, and pull through 2. And I'm just going to repeat this until I have 33 foundation stitches. My yarn's splitting a little bit. I can't tell you how many iterations I made of these gloves to try and get the fit just right. So this yarn has been worked and then undone a few times, and it's not very happy with me. Okay, so now I've got 33. And just like many of the other patterns, if you don't like doing foundation stitches, you can do a chain and then single crochet across. Just make sure you end up with 33 single crochet. So now we'll chain 1. That does not count as a stitch, and turn our work. Single crochet in the first stitch. We're going to skip 3 stitches and then work a shell. And if you noticed at the beginning of the pattern, if you have the printed pattern, it tells you that a shell stitch is just 9 double crochet worked in whatever stitch. So we're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work 9 double crochet in this stitch, the 4th stitch away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we're going to skip 3 more stitches, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the next stitch. And now we're just going to repeat that across. We'll do skip 3, shell, skip 3, single crochet. And we should end with a single crochet in the very last stitch. So you should have 4 full shells going across that row. And don't worry if this row is a little bit wobbly, that's totally fine. This start is actually what is going to be sewn underneath this edge here on the glove. So that start is not really going to show. It's going to be on the inside of that joined side of the glove. Okay, so from here, we are going to chain 3, and this does count as a double crochet, and turn. We'll double crochet in the same stitch, and we'll chain 5. Now we're going to completely skip this shell, and we're going to work into the single crochet on the opposite side of the shell. So we're going to do a V stitch in that single crochet. So the V is just a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now we'll repeat that. We'll do chain 5, skip the shell. Sorry, I only chained 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip the shell, V stitch in the single crochet. Chain 5, skip the shell, V stitch in the single crochet. Chain 5. Now we're going to skip the shell again, and we're going to do 2 double crochet in the last single crochet. So it's basically a V stitch, but doesn't have the chain 1 in there. So it's just 2 double crochet in the last stitch. So this side, it's not actually attached. These strings right now, these chains are not attached, and that's fine because we're going to work over them in the next row. So we'll chain 3 and turn. And you might notice that we're going to alternate a shell row and a V-stitch row. All of the shell rows are worked on the right side, and all of the V-stitch rows are worked on the wrong side. Just FYI. Okay, so we chained 3, we turned. We're going to do 4 double crochet in the same stitch. This is basically half of a shell. We're starting with a half shell. Now we're going to do a single crochet in the 5th stitch of this shell. So we need, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the very middle one, but we're going to work over this chain when we do it. So we're going to insert our hook in that stitch, make sure we're catching that chain in the middle also, and work a single crochet. So now that chain is attached into our project and isn't a floppy mess. Now we'll work a shell in the chain space of the V-stitch. So it's 9 double crochet in the chain space of this V-stitch. And now we're going to do the same thing. We'll do a single crochet in the 5th stitch of this shell, working and catching that chain in our single crochet. So we'll continue like this around across. When you get to the end here, we'll do that single crochet normally, and then we'll just do 5 double crochet in the last stitch. And I'll show you that also. So here I've reached the very end of the row. I've done my single crochet in the middle of the previous shell, and now I'm just going to do my 5 double crochet in the last stitch, which would be the top of that chain 3 turn chain. And again, this 5 double crochet is basically a half of a shell, and that's the main difference with the other sizes, is that they start with this row instead of this row. They start with the half shell instead of a full shell, just because of the length that we're going for. Okay, trucking right along here. So we'll keep going. We've got another V row. We'll chain 3 and turn. That chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Actually, it doesn't. Sorry, that counts as a chain. And now we're going to do a V stitch in this single crochet. Chain 5. Skip the whole shell, V stitch in the single crochet. Chain 5. Skip the shell, V stitch in the single crochet. Chain 5. V stitch in the single crochet. And now to finish off this row, we're just going to do a chain 3, and then we will slip stitch to the top of the turn chain to the first stitch here. So now we have 2 full rows of shells. You can see they each have 4 shells, but this one has 3 whole shelves and 2 halves, and this one has 4 whole shelves. It's shells, not shelves. Okay, now we'll chain 1 and turn. Single crochet in that first stitch. And here, it's kind of hard to see where that first stitch, I usually just do it in the same stitch that we just slip stitched into. There we go. Now we're going to do a shell in the chain space of the V. Now we'll do our chain, or sorry, a single crochet in the 5th stitch of the shell, working that chain so we pin it down. And now we'll just keep going like this across this row, and we'll end with a single crochet in our last stitch here. Okay, so now we've gotten through our whole pattern repeat. Ignoring the starting shell row, it's the V's, the shells, the V's, the shells. So 2 sets of V's and shells is 1 pattern repeat. So now we're just going to repeat rows 3 and 4 one more time. So we're going to do the V row here and the shell row here, and then it will be time to work on the thumb. So I'm going to go ahead and do those 2 rows off camera, and then I'll come back and show you the thumb. Alright, so I just finished those last couple repeats, and now it's time to start the thumb. And like I said, the thumb is going to be worked similarly no matter what size glove you're doing. You should end on one of these rows with the half shells and 3 full shells. Now the thumb is actually worked over 4 rows, so you work it over the full pattern repeat. And the only difference between the right thumb and the left thumb is which of these shells you're skipping. So you have 4 shells, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the right thumb we skipped this one, in the left thumb we're going to skip this one, and that's just so that this edging ends up on the pinky side of the glove, right side up for both of them. If I put this one on my left hand, you can see that edging would be upside down over there. So I already have a right glove, so I'm going to do the thumb for the left glove, but it's very similar, it's just skipping a different shell. And you can get the actual counts for that on the pattern. All right, so we'll start with a chain 3. And turn. We'll do a V stitch in that single crochet. chain 5, V-stitch in the single crochet. Now we'll chain 3. We're going to slip stitch to the 5th stitch of this shell. Now we're going to chain 9. And we're going to slip stitch to the 5th stitch of the next shell. So basically we just skipped our V-stitch here. We're not going to end up putting a shell here because this is going to be where our thumb is. Now we'll chain 3, V-stitch in the single crochet, chain 3, and slip stitch in the last stitch. Now chain 1 and turn. So now this is a shells row. We'll single crochet in that first stitch. Oops. We're going to do a shell in the chain space of the V, just like normal. So we did all 9 of those double crochet. Single crochet in the 5th stitch of the shell below. So this is the same one we just slip stitched into. We're going to single crochet in that same space. Now we're going to chain 9 again, right where we did our last chain 9. Now we'll single crochet in this same space on the other side. And now we'll continue normally. We'll do our shells, single crochet, shell, single crochet. Okay, so now it's time for another V row. We'll chain 3 and turn, double crochet in the same stitch, chain 5, skip our shell and V-stitch in the single crochet, chain 5, skip the shell, V-stitch in the single crochet, now we're going to chain 5, we're going to skip this whole thumb gap, which is where the shell would have been, and V-stitch in the single crochet. So this row actually is normal. It just feels weird because we have that big thumb gap in there. But we're doing this just the same way we normally would. Then chain 5, skip the shell, and 2 double crochet in the last stitch. All right, now we'll chain 3 and turn. And now here's where we're going to reestablish our main pattern and finish off that thumb. So we'll start with 4 double crochet in the same stitch to make our little half shell. Every time I say half shell, I keep wanting to say turtles in a half shell, turtle power. And then I feel super nerdy, and I haven't watched Ninja Turtles since I was a really little kid, and my cousin used to play with me, and he would always make me be April, and I always wanted to be Donatello, and that was super lame. Anyway, he's a cool cousin though, so I forgive him. Okay, so 4 double crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the 5th stitch of the shell. Oop, without catching all my yarn. Now we're going to do a shell in the chain space of the V here. Now here, we need to take care of all these chains, right? We don't want our thumb to look like that. So all you're going to do is do a single crochet over all 3 of these chains. So I'm going to insert my hook below all of them, wrap them all together in 1 single crochet. So they make a nice, neat little bundle. And then we'll keep going. We'll do a shell in this V-stitch. And we'll finish this row normally. So we'll do shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, and then our half of a shell. All right, so that's the thumb. So you can see if I'm going to put this, since I did a left thumb, if I put this on my left hand, the starting part should end up by my pinky, and we're going to keep working this until it comes around here, and then we'll sew it together at the end. But this then will mirror this one. So my right glove and my left glove, twinsies. So depending on what size you're doing, you'll do a different number of rows to finish this off. But for the 7-inch glove, I'm going to do 8 more rows. So 2 more full pattern repeats, and then I'll sew the glove together. So I'm going to do that off camera. And then I will come back and show you how to sew it together. All right, so I've done with my repeats. I'm ready to sew. So I'm going to leave a long tail to sew. And then I'll get my yarn needle. And we can just pull this out. Put this on our yarn needle. Now when you sew this, you want this last row of shells, and remember, depending on what size you did, you might have ended with the row with 4 full shells instead of 3 full and 2 half, and it doesn't matter, either way is fine as long as you ended on a shell row. So this last row of shells is gonna hang over the edge. So here you can see on my other glove that it's kind of floppy here. So we're gonna sew the base of this shell row onto our foundation row. So we'll fold this over. And you can kind of do this whatever way you like. Again, sewing is not one of my great strengths. But as long as it doesn't come apart, it doesn't really matter. First, I'm going to get this thread just down to the base of this row. So I'm just going to go kind of back down through that stitch, down to the base. So here, I want the base of this row to attach to this foundation row over here. So I'm going to go down here. Now I'm going to find the start of my foundation row. Let's sew that together. And then, I'll come back up. So you can see the way these shells are going to line up. The base of this shell is going to be in between these 2 shells. If I had finished on a row with 4 full shells, they would line up directly overlapping. So just be aware of how it is on your specific glove, because it will be slightly different than mine potentially. So I just make sure those shells are lined up every stitch that I do. So if I go down in the middle here, I should end up in the middle of this shell, the base of the middle of that shell. And I'm just going to do this all the way across until I reach the other side. I don't have any specific place that I'm going in here. I do like to, when I do the middle of the shell, I'll kind of go under so that it's not so obvious, and then out the back, just to hide that sewing a little bit on the front side. On the back side, it really doesn't matter because nobody's going to see it. It's going to be inside your glove. Okay, so I think you get the idea by now that we are just sewing this together, and this is overlapping a little bit so that it hangs over the edge and it makes this beautiful little shell pattern. Now, if you finish your glove and you find that it is just a little bit too tight before you sew it together, you can actually go back. This is just a start of another one. You can go back to this foundation row and work another row of single crochet along here. That's still kind of hidden by this, so it's not really going to show, but if you work another row or even 2 rows of single crochet, you can make it a little bit bigger without having to jump up to the next size and redo the whole thing. So that's just a little tip if you find it's just a little bit too tight when you're done.